China's manufacturing has slowed and hit copper. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian Heise here and welcome to another episode of Heise Says. I've got my stein of coffee and I thought we would have a look at this article about copper slipping to a 2-week low due to Chinese manufacturing weakness. Now, I talk a lot about iron ore. Everyone talks a lot about iron ore because it's a very important part of the Australian economy. It's a very big and very popular mineral and we export a lot of it. But what about copper? What about copper? So let's jump over to one of my favorite websites, the Observatory of Economic Complexity, and let's have a look at copper ore. So copper ore is the 41st most traded product and the 1,186th most complex product according to the Product Complexity Index. So that's out of 1,232 products. It means it's not a very complex product. I guess when you have an age named after you, yeah. So the top exporters of copper ore are Chile, Peru, and Australia. We are the third largest exporter of copper. Peru and Chile significantly outproduce us. We're at 4.2 billion. Peru is at 12 billion, and Chile is at 16.6 billion. But we're still, ahead of Indonesia, which is 3.1, and then Canada at 2.8. And the top importers are China, 25 billion. You can see down here, China, then Japan and India. China, Japan, India, South Korea. Well, there you go. There you go. So, a slowdown in China, Japan, any of these countries is going to have an effect on Australia as a copper exporter and, well, all of the countries as a copper exporter. Now, let's have a look here. We'll bring up Google Earth Pro, and I have the operating mines in Australia. And I got this data from the Australian Mines Atlas. You can download it there and see all the operating mines. I've just selected all the copper mines so we can get an understanding of where they are and where the potential economic impact of a slowdown in these mines might be felt. And as opposed to the iron ore, which I'll turn on here, you can see the iron ore. I'll flash it on, flash it off, which is very heavily located in Western Australia. At least our copper is a little bit more distributed. Northern Territory only has one copper mine, it looks like. Western Australia has a few all around the place. All remote. South Australia as well. Oh, Olympic Dams. Olympic Dam does everything, doesn't it? Broken Hill in New South Wales. Victoria doesn't have any copper mines, and Tasmania has two copper mines. What about Queensland? Well, New South Wales has a few. Queensland, we've got a whole heap up here. Turn on some places as well, so you can see. You can see whenever you turn on places and you see these little airports in the middle of nowhere. Oh, okay. Mount Isa isn't the middle of nowhere, but you know what I mean. Like here. Auburn Airport. You can tell that's usually for mines and things. So we can see that it would be, it would have an impact. Well, West Australia, Queensland, New South Wales, I'd assume, more than the other states, but even South Australia. So it's much more spread than iron ore. So you can see here, I'm looking at the price of copper. This is the 4-hour chart, so it's fallen down. This article was written this morning, and we'll look at, we'll go to 1 month data. You can see here, it's gone down for a few weeks. It was a bit lower, $2.16. Look at that low there, $1.40. And in February it was there too. Let's see what's all the data they have. Okay, we were looking at it all. So it gives you a good understanding of where copper's sitting. So let's jump back and have a look at this article. So copper price fell to 2-week lows overnight as weak manufacturing and investment data from China fueled concerns about demand in the top consumer and expectations of lower rates in the United States. Well, yeah, it's copper in everything we buy. Benchmark copper on the London's Metal Exchange ended down 0.4% at US 5,812 a ton, having touched a sessional low of 5,807. So, prices of the metal used widely in the power and construction industries have dropped more than 10% since the 2019 peak above US 6,600 hit in April. The Chinese data was really weak, and the rise in US producer prices means a Fed rate cut could be shelved, a metal trader said, adding that comments from US Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell seem to reinforce that thinking. This would support the US currency, which when it rises, makes US dollar dominated commodities more expensive for holders of other currencies, subduing demand. This relationship is used by funds that trade using buy and sell signals generated by numerical models. US producer prices increased by the most in 6 months in October, lifted by gains in the cost of goods and services, bolstering the Fed's stance that it will probably not cut rates again in the near term. Among other things, Powell said the October employment report was very solid, the probability of recession was not elevated, and that the US consumer sector was very strong. China's industrial output grew significantly slower than expected in October, as weakness in global and domestic demand and the drawn-out US-China trade conflict weighed on activity. Well, here's the thing. That domestic demand that they're mentioning there, that's what our treasurer is hoping will fuel the continued demand for Australian resources, iron ore and copper. Thursday's data also showed fixed asset investment, a key driver of economic growth, grew 5.2% from January-October, the lowest since Reuters records began in the ancient days of 1996. The consensus was for growth of 5.4%, and this is the issue with all of this type of stuff with the markets. It's what's more important, particularly for the swing traders, is the difference between the consensus and the difference between what has actually happened. China and the United States are holding in-depth discussions on a first phase trade agreement, and cancelling tariffs is an important condition to reaching a deal, the Chinese Commerce Ministry said. China has been relying on a combination of fiscal stimulus and monetary easing to weather the current slowdown, but room for aggressive monetary policy action has been limited by worries over debt and housing risks. Aluminium closed down 1.3% at US 1,742. Zinc slipped 1.1% to US 2,396. Lead fell 0.9 to US 2,017. Tin rose 1.2% to US 16,200. That's just look at how expensive tin is, guys. Just how expensive it is as a commodity. It's crazy. And nickel ceded 1.7% to US 15,120. Prices of the metal used to galvanize steel earlier touched US 2,387.5 a ton, the lowest since October 18. On concerns about demands from steel producers in China, hidden stocks, and expectations of rising output. Well, that's very interesting, because that is going to flow through to our iron ore production. And we'll just jump over here and let's have a look. I'll turn on the iron ore. We'll go to iron ore, and you can see quite clearly where the majority of Australians' iron ore is mined. Okay, you can see quite clearly where that's mined and the potential implication that has for the Western Australian economy, particularly a slowdown there. And we were looking at the last few days, and I'll bring it up again, the number of people or housings in arrears on their mortgages. And Western Australia is leading the growth in that sector, sadly. And the red is 150 days. So guys, I think we've got another element to be concerned about. I mean, Australia is a mining nation. We are not got a very complex economy. And, well, we need to keep aware of the potential implications of what's going to happen. What do you think, guys? Do you think copper will be felt if it's sharply reduced? Will some of our mines be unable to produce competitively with the other larger producers? Let me know what you think in the comments. Like, share and subscribe. And if you want to support me producing more of these videos, I have a Patreon and a Subscribe Star where you can make a small monthly donation. I also have Amazon and eBay affiliate links where I receive a commission if you make a purchase and it doesn't cost you a cent. And finally, I have PayPal and Ethereum if you want to make a donation that way. Take care, guys. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye now.